What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner and 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. And I host the only online show in the world for dads and fathers that's sponsored by Dove Men Care. It's also co-sponsored by Dad Central Canada's National Fatherhood Organization. And as always, I'd like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. We're broadcasting live on November 21st, and it is getting colder here in Toronto. It's a chilly day, so winter is on its way. But you know what? Most Sunday afternoons, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, we're bringing the heat with Black Canada Talking. And Black Canada Talking is a live online event that provides Black Canadians the opportunity to give their takes and POVs on stories that are of importance to them. And we have two of our regular panel here today to share with us. First up, we have Sarah Onyango from the Ottawa Got to Know area. Got to Know. Sarah, how are we doing today?
Bonjour, bonjour, and thanks for remembering I live on the Quebec side.
Good for you.
Quebecer. And well, I'm glad to be able to join you this evening. It's been a really busy number of months with all these elections we've had. As you know, I work, with political media, and it's about to get busier because the House of Commons is back. So we're going to see some new Black members of Parliament, Ariel Kayabaga, Leslyn Lewis, some returning MPs, Ahmed Hussein, Marcy Ian, Matthew Green, in action. And there's a lot of work to be done in the House. But other than that, and it's cold here too in Quebec, and getting darker earlier.
Yes. Quick question for you. Well, first of all, remember to give yourself grace. Most importantly. Yes, and I know you have a well-earned vacation coming, but I have a question for you, and maybe you have some more insight than I do, or any of us. What is going on with Greg Fergus?
How do you mean what is going on with Greg
Is he
Fergus?
Still the head of the Black Caucus?
As far as I know, yes, but again, the House of Commons only returns tomorrow.
Right.
So when there's a new parliament, everybody's now been sworn in. Greg was sworn in last week.
Yeah.
I watched that online. He is my member of parliament.
Okay.
So once, everybody's been sworn in, the House is back, the committees start again with new members, most likely, because new senators were named before the House rules last time. We'll see. I'm disappointed, like everybody else, that my member of parliament, after so many years of work and boots on the ground for this Liberal Party of Canada, does not even get, anything resembling a ministerial portfolio. I'm hoping that this is just, a temporary state of affairs, because as you know, the Prime Minister does shuffle his cabinet here and there. He already did shuffle his cabinet. For example, the guy in charge of public security, Bill Blair, your former chief of police of Toronto, he's no longer in that portfolio. It's Marco Mendicino, if I'm not mistaken. So who knows? Maybe, somebody will get shuffled out and Greg will get shuffled in, because as a lot of people here are mad in this constituency, but also in this region, that after all of the heavy lifting and cleaning up of messes by the Trudeau government, nobody mentions Greg's name. So, nobody should panic. He hasn't been banished to Never Never Land. He's very, very active in our community here. He's very busy out there, doing MP's work. And then we'll see when the House comes back.
All right. Let's have our other friend up today, Cesar. Looking to have you. What is up, my brother?
Hi, Dr. Vibe. Hi, Sister Sarah.
Hello.
I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for having me, as always. Basically, I'm here. We have working a lot in terms of, advancing Pan-Africanist causes, not just here in Ottawa, but, worldwide. Special thoughts to things that happen in Haiti and, of course, in the United States, as we will talk about, but as well in Africa. It doesn't get talked a lot, doesn't get talked enough. There you go, Ethiopia. And yeah, I'm basically here, getting darker. I mean, I almost want to say black weather works, but
black weather works. I love
it. Hey, it's not so much that I'm an Afrocentric in terms of putting Afro/black in the center of everything, but at the same time, what's the name of the season that we're coming to? That season of, Christmas, white Christmas, all that holiday type of, kind of symbolism in terms of whiteness as purity and beauty. So, it's important that we remember that, we need to address our language, especially in this time of the season, to dispel a lot of these Eurocentric and notably Disney creation in languages that even our children perpetuate, white Christmas and things like that. So no, I want to see Black Weather Matters. Unfortunately, it gets darker and it gets colder. Yeah.
And you forgot Kwanzaa.
Oh, I didn't forget Kwanzaa. Actually, my wife was talking about it, and to some of her sisters-in-law who are white, it was like, yeah, we in this family, because my wife is African American, Kwanzaa is a real thing. Kwanzaa was actually celebrated in this couple before our daughter was born, so that her first Kwanzaa was actually in the womb of her mother. So indeed, we African American spirituality and Sawa spirituality in terms of my roots, but really Pan-African spirituality, because just as we do Ngondo of the Sawa, Kwanzaa of African American, on January 1st, we never forget Sumjumu of our Haitian brothers and sisters. So yeah.
Wonderful. That is good. Well, we got 3 really good conversation pieces to chat about today. And the first one we're going to be talking about is the Quebec PM and Mayor respond to shootings, including the murder of a 16-year-old Montreal boy last weekend. And there's a lot of gun-related crimes going on in Montreal. Yeah. What's going on in Montreal?
Well, okay, so actually, Montreal is no stranger to gun violence. It's just that back in the day, it was associated with biker gangs, so white guys, basically, and mafia, white guys, again, right? And in fact, if I'm not mistaken, the mafia was like all the 70s, and then the bikers come in at the tail end of the 70s, and they, throughout the 80s. And in fact, it was the murder of a young boy. I believe he was 12 years old or something, right in the street in front of people. He was blown up, I think. He was a victim of, it was an attempted bombing against a rival biker gang member or something. And the little boy was, walking by or riding on his bike or something. I remember this vividly because I was, I was going to school in Ottawa. And that particular incident was that turning point where the government of Quebec, the federal government, and the city of Montreal just said, okay, we're done. We're just really done. When these biker wars start to affect innocent people, white people, sorry, but that's what it is. Oh, we've got to do something. It's terrible. Oh my God. And I might say rather successfully, they managed to come down hard on the bikers. And in fact, at one point, membership dwindled. These biker gangs were banished to like way outside of the downtown core. And they sort of retreated to, little, towns and cities. And then their activity dwindled. But guess what? The mafia was still active. And in fact, as we speak, we still have the occasional hit job with mafia shooting. The thing with these mafia types is they don't go out just shooting willy-nilly, right? They know who the person is. It's boop, 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 and then throw you in the trunk of the car, or you're found in the back of some alley or something. This new breed is apparently it's not very structured either. It's not necessarily Bloods, Crips kind of thing. A lot of drug turf wars, right? And apparently in this case, it may have been, bravado, like a initiation where, because of social media, some young, wannabe gangsters are supposed to go and kill somebody, and then, the evidence online that they did that, and that makes them, that sort of builds their quote unquote bad guy brand or whatever it is. But who knows? Nothing is conclusive in this particular case. In some cases, just like in Toronto, it's retaliation. Like you took out my buddy, 3 of us are coming, we're taking you out. There's collateral damage, i.e., people at your birthday party who got shot because they were in the wrong place at the right time, at the wrong time, etc., etc. I mean, it's such a mix of things. But it's interesting that this latest shooting, it was in Saint-Michel. I don't know if your audience know, Saint-Michel is the Black Hood, pretty much, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you have to wonder about that. One thing people need to keep in mind is that Montreal is not Chicago. Okay, I'm sorry, it's not. It's not Chicago. It's not at that point. However, Mayor Valérie Plante, who, by the way, just got reelected, she beat out Denis Coderre, who's decided he's quitting politics. For how long, who knows? But so now the mayors, and it's not just Valérie Plante, also the former mayor of my city, they are trying to put pressure on the federal government to deal with the flow of arms across the border. Okay, because that's not a municipal thing, that's a federal thing. So the flow of arms across the border and the flow of arms through First Nations reserves. And in Quebec, it's, okay, who are in Quebec? It's Akwesasne, I believe. Akwesasne or Mohawk, I think. Yeah. And so, it's a very complicated thing. And on top of it, even if you, have a new handgun ban, an assault rifle ban, or you make it stricter, there's still the guns that are created using, this new technology, right? Where you make and then you buy the parts of the gun legally, and those guns are just as lethal. Ghost guns, that's what they are. They're ghost guns. So the traceability of the guns, it seems as if the focus is less on the social problems that lead these offenders to that life, and more on, banning guns and, legislating this, legislating that, and not enough focus on funding the community-based programs that are going to deal with some of the social ills that, fuel this problem.
Cesar? Well, Sister Sarah said a lot of good things. I agree entirely with everything she said. What I would also add to that is to understand that not only Montreal is not Chirac, to use hip-hop language, it's not Chicago/Iraq. Even if they're now in their 30s, like 31st, I believe, homicide in the city. What bothers me about these shootings, not only do we often talk about the socioeconomic issues that must be addressed, because we must be honest, these shootings, notably of youth, don't happen in Westmount. They don't happen in the rich neighborhoods where Air Canada CEO lives in while refusing to speak French. They don't happen in the places in the neighborhood where Mayor Valérie Plante lives in. However, we must address something that is emblematic of the very nature of this society. And this is where I really wanted to speak regarding the Prime Minister Legault and Mayor Valérie Plante, which is, on one side, you have a Prime Minister who denies the existence of systemic racism. And again, I have to be careful here, not careful for us who are educated on these topics, but for our audience. This is not Black people crime victimization or whining again. This is the hypocrisy of the system where you have a prime minister who denies systemic racism, and we know shootings and gang violence is very closely tied to systemic issues, including systemic racism. He denies it, and suddenly, last week, we have a young 16-year-old white male Quebecer by the name of Thomas Trudel. So rest in peace to him. Thoughts and prayers to his family. Absolutely. This is not questioning the kid himself. Even if he was involved in anything that could tie him to some gang or criminal activity. That's not it. The prime minister going to pay tribute to where he got killed, speaking of thoughts and prayers and his sympathy, and yet he was never seen for so many Black youth, also innocent, also unarmed, that have been killed. The same prime minister will deny systemic racism, who was not there earlier in the year when a 15-year-old Maghrebi, so Northern African girl, 15-year-old, got shot in the head simply for sitting in the back of a car and a bullet hit her. So this type of hypocrisy is blatant of the same prime minister who denies systemic racism despite so many reports on the death of indigenous married mother, Joyce Echaquan, who died in a Quebec hospital. Mm-hmm. At the same time, we have Mayor Valérie Laplante, who effectively got reelected, and congratulations to her. It's more than time for Quebec as Canada and, the Western and the world to give women more leadership and for women to really show that they can do better than a lot of men have done. So congrats to her for having been elected. And yeah, this is the same Mayor Laplante who is very well known for cashing in on diversity voting, for presenting herself as the ally, the woke person, who seeks to have our Black sisters and brothers in her party in order to seduce minority voting. And yet, just like Prime Minister Legault will deny systemic racism, she truly, I'm not saying she didn't say anything before, but she truly showed her emotions regarding the death of that young white boy, Thomas Trudel, and she was visibly absent regarding the murders of the other young Black kids. That is a fundamental problem to me. But must question our Black communities, notably those who claim to be Black leaders, in terms of who they choose to support, who they choose to say, I'm siding with this person in the elections to get voted, to get funding, to get XYZ, because it's when tragedy hits at the door that concrete actions are seen.
Mm-hmm. So I just want to clarify for people, when Cesar says prime minister, he means premier. Because in French, we say premier ministre. He means Premier Legault, so the head of the province. And you know what? Yes, indeed. The denial of systemic racism in Quebec is real, y'all. The struggle is real out here, okay? Because, like I was saying, they don't want to deal with really what is at the root, and that is the economic marginalization and also geographical and social marginalization of people of color, Black and Maghrébin, which are the Middle Eastern,
Northern Africans,
mostly from North Africa, Tunisia, Morocco, Algeria, etc. Because for sure, if you're all going to be concentrated in Saint-Michel, Parc Extension, NDG, etc., with lower quality services, fewer opportunities, economic and otherwise, and if because that's the address you have, you're less likely to get a white collar job in the municipal government, in the provincial government, etc. What are your chances of upward, socio-economic mobility so you can get out of that, area? And even if you want to stay in that area, where are the opportunities for you? Well, along come the drug dealers, along come the gun dealers, along come, and by the way, Cesar, you do see gun crime in Saint Leonard and the rich neighborhoods when it's mafia related. Absolutely, when it's mafia related.
Just building on what Sarah was just saying, thanks both of you for your great takes. There's a gentleman, I know, Sarah, you know him, Louis March.
Yes. Is he here?
No, not today. From the Zero Gun Violence, who I've known for many years. Yes. I remember one of the things he said to me a few years back. He says, when it comes to young Black people, it's easier for them to get a gun than it is a job.
Get a job. Yes, absolutely. And by the way, I'd love to send shout outs to folks like Brother Louis March and all of the soldiers out there who are boots on the ground. They are doing the work. They are doing direct intervention, going to try and get these young people, because I'm sure there's women, like young women, who are now getting into that life.
Absolutely.
But they're going to the heart of the problem. They're going to the hood. They're trying to talk to these people. They're trying to mentor them. They're trying to show them that, you know what, your community cares. No matter what you might think. I care. These brothers care. Zero gun violence. They care. And we're here. Black daddies. We're here. And what do you need? We're here to help you. There's not enough about that, because it's all well and good to say, yes, the government of Canada needs to have stricter gun laws. We already have strict gun laws. Yeah, they need to stop the flow of guns, etc. Yeah, well, good luck with that, because people are finding ways to literally build their own guns. So, and they're not coming across the border, and what is it? Mandatory minimums and more jail time for gun offenses, etc. No, you need to get to the root. So in my province, in Quebec, look at the economic and social marginalization. Also look at the housing conditions, because in Ottawa, if I'm not mistaken, Cesar, you remember that the shooting down in Lower Town, dans la Basse Ville, where it's this young man from Burundi who doesn't really, there's no connection.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there are a lot of people in his community, and immigrants who end up there. They begin there. They don't all stay there, but that's where they're sort of lumped.
I mean,
because of not enough housing, not enough social housing around, the capital.
Allow me to actually go further in terms of linking the past to the future. We're living in North America, Canada, and US, where a couple of decades ago, we even go 100 years ago, why is it that Italians, Irish, and members of the Jewish community were in organized crime? It was because of discrimination and socioeconomics. Yep. The Lucky Luciano, Mayor Lansky, and I don't remember, Dutch something, whatever. It's not that they were raised by parents who were looking at them to say, you will become the boss of the mafia. They became into those structures due to discrimination in society. And how is it that today we no longer think of Italians, Jewish, and Dutch and Irish communities as mafia related? I mean, of course, Hollywood will always make sure to bring us a great movie, but in general, those are respected communities because there's been massive involvement, massive funding of those communities to uplift them. When we look at, for example, Black communities, and again, This is not whining or victimization. These are concrete facts where we can see the link with other communities that came out of there. You know, I said Italian, Jewish, Irish. I can add Chinese community as well. When we look in terms of Black community, something in terms of linking these gang-related shootings, but also the empathy of politicians, we look at what happened to indigenous people following the Cindy Gladue trial in the early 2010s, where an indigenous woman was raped and killed and her private parts shown in court. Something hard to believe to happen in Canada in the 2010s, but yes, it happened here. But it led to the creation of the Gladue principles that assess the level of victimization and discrimination of an indigenous person prior to sentencing. It's not a jail-free out of card. It's an assessment in terms of to what extent has this person been victimized that led to the commission of this crime. We need to have the same type of things for our Black people, not just in terms of committing crime, but also in terms of assessing why our people tend to be more vulnerable to crime-infested activities that notably lead to a higher presence in terms of like gang-related shootings. Because if you look at organized crime like the mafia and all that, what do we usually find? It's developers, it's lawyers, it's people who are doing white-collar crime, aka they are doing it out of greed, not out of a need of survival. That's a fundamental difference here that we must recognize, no matter how painful or annoying it can be to some people. People don't just choose, and when I say people, I include even the youth here. You talk to enough youth, the difference is this. They can watch the same hip hop video, but those who become tempted into a life of crime tend to very often be those who don't have options at home in terms of activities and in terms of means the parents have for a better employment.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping in Montreal, and thanks for that, Cesar, because people need to have that historical perspective about crime syndicates that were the Jewish, their involvement in alcohol bootlegging, Seagrams. That's how Seagrams got their fortune. Hello, Irish criminality, Middle Eastern criminality. Nobody talks about that. Increasingly here in Ottawa, we see a lot of the victims now they're looking brown. they're looking, Iraqi, they're looking brown. And how come though in those communities you don't get, the extent that you get in our community? But what I'm hoping to see in Montreal, I don't know if Dr. Vibe, you are aware of the record number of Black councillors who got elected. Yes.
Okay, that's a good
Quebec,
sign.
Record number. We got 2 here in Gatineau, and we waited, I don't know, 8 years or something to get number 2 and number 3. After number 1 was way back in
2 women, Cesar, you're saying 2 women?
Yes, 2 women. Yes. Well, but in Montreal, there's a record number. And the one I'm interested in is the one in Repentigny, a Black man in Repentigny, where there has been a rash of anti-Black police brutality that has made national headlines in Canada. So hopefully, now that they are at the table, these people can advocate more strongly for these marginalized communities and bring down that violence.
Wow. I want to ask both of you before we move on to our next conversation piece. What responsibility do we as Blacks in regards to this continuing situation of gun violence?
Well, so Cesar, you probably know better than me, but I've noticed that increasingly it's our young continental Africans, other than Somali, because the Somalis are the ones, for the past number of years, they were just involved a lot. Now you're getting Rwandans and Burundians and, Nigerians and, that sort of thing. And in a lot of cases, parents who are really just not aware of the circles in which their young people, gravitate, or the people gravitating around their young people, even if the young person is not at all into criminality. They do play basketball, they're on the basketball court, they play football, etc. So this whole, the brother's keeper, your child's keeper, that needs to be revived. That village needs to be revived. Like, there's only so many programs that can help. Mentorship programs, etc. But if in the home you don't know anything about the comings and goings of your son or daughter, there's money that's coming in, you have no idea where it's coming from, but you live on Ritchie Street and you're marginalized and whatever, you're just grateful that they're helping you out, etc., etc. Because the criminality, like Cesar said rightly, it's not to look grand and great. Sometimes it's really the necessity, a struggling family with 6 kids in that 2-bedroom apartment in a part of town where the housing is not necessarily all that great, right? So my brothers and sisters keeper thing, how can we do that better so that you see the signs and then you see how pastors can get in there, how elders can get in there, and also the kind of support that can be offered to parents? Because I've heard this a lot from continental African parents. How can you parent your kids in this country where at the drop of a hat, children's aid is at your door because you did this to your kid when you're trying to, set your kids straight? I'm not condoning physical violence against your children.
Right.
But it's almost like the government has taken parental control out of your hands and, given your status, you don't want to invite the attention of people like police and children's aid. Parenting is really hard out here.
Absolutely. Cesar, do you want to add anything before we move on to our next conversation piece?
Yes. Allow me to answer your question. First of all, by saying it is complex. It's very complex. I'm going to try to answer it on threefold, to make it easier to understand. First and foremost, these type of issues are not a simple matter of Mr. and Mrs. Kofi, Tiana, or Smith and Blackwell down the street. It's systemic. Again, what has helped to bring down the mafia in Italy, notably, and in the US, was massive influx in terms of funding and programs into the Italian community. That's what has helped to mitigate the temptations of joining. Why? Because people were able to have jobs that helped them to have better livelihoods. Same thing in terms of the Jewish community with something extra, which was harsher anti-Semitism laws being passed, aka protecting the community from harm from the outside, but also the temptations of crime from the inside. Now, the second level, and Sister Sarah was saying it, is the community involvement. And by community involvement, allow me to give the example of our organization, Roots and Culture Canada, as we have a program led by our CEO, Ketsia Peters, called It's a Trap. It's a trap that basically brings in Black leaders, and we also have in a group a white woman who have experience of the criminal life, of the underground, will have lived a life from street peddling and homelessness to pimping, drug dealing, prison, but also sexual trafficking, intervening in schools, giving the reality checks to our teenage boys and girls, letting them know the lure and attractiveness of quick, easy money becomes a trap that only leads you to three fate: prison, death, or worse than you would have been financially and in terms of your own reputation. It's important that we talk about that. And as saying that, the third level, of course, as Sister Sarah said, is the family. We have to be mindful of putting so much blame on our Black fathers and mothers. I do give them a lot of criticism, and we should, but we have to be mindful of the fact that men and women who are trying to survive, especially if they just came to Canada, the US, France, UK, whatever, they're trying to survive combining 2 or 3 jobs.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to survive being able to pay the rent, the electricity, and now we have the internet, put food in the fridge with entry-level jobs, low salary, that, by the way, increase the likeliness to catch COVID, and at the same time, keep an eye on the children in a society where either they don't speak the language or they have limited knowledge of the language and of the culture versus the children, whether they're in elementary or high school, who will be integrating at fast speed. But it starts in the home. It starts in the home. As all issues in the Black community, it starts in the home with a Pan-Africanist mindset, a mindset where we can have our parents talking to the children, communicating with them, learning with them about integration in Canada, whether they live in Montreal, Toronto, Ottawa, or Vancouver, where basically they can teach them the heroes of the people, be that they're from Haiti, Somalia, Congo, Nigeria, Cameroon, Kenya, whichever, but that they understand that Nani of the Maroons in Jamaica is also the hero, even if their last name is Mohammed, or even if they speak Creole. Creating that sense of community that your Blackness will make you victim. Nobody will care of the part of the map of Africa or the Caribbean you're from. They will only see Black, and as such, your heroes must be Black, and you must find inspiration in them to say no to the drug dealer, no to the pimp person, no to the person trying to steal, no to the person trying to offer you drugs or a gun. When I was a bouncer for many years, how many times did I not get approached to become an enforcer, to become a leg breaker for collecting money because of my size and because I'm intimidating? And I said no each and every time, not because I'm better than anyone, but we need to instill to our youth a sense of Black pride that will make them stronger and that will help them to better see a future for themselves. These are a lot of the solutions that we must do. It's a complex issue, but it's a necessary issue, because when we look at the other communities that also have a lot of crime, by the way, but they don't get stigmatized as we do. They have a greater sense of self, a greater sense of community, of the spirituality, of the background of where they come from. And it helps to protect them. But when it comes to Black people, the Prime Minister, the Mayor of Montreal, the Premier of Quebec, the Mayor of Montreal, they will go for the kid to Matrudel. They won't show up for the Black youth who are killed because our community is seen as weak. I hate to say it, but that's what it is.
All right. Well, let's move on. We gone a little bit past what we want to do on the first topic, but I'm glad we did, because it's an ongoing challenge, and have to get Louis March back on before the end of the year. Or what I'll do, Sarah, I'll have him come on when you come. Actually, promo right here. Next week on Black Canada Talking, Louis March is going to be here along with the representatives from the church, because Louis March has a big concern with churches not getting involved in a conversation about gun violence.
Yes.
Yeah.
They just want to get involved when it's the funeral. I said it.
We're going there. Go there, Sarah. Go.
And I went there.
I did not see it.
I said it. Now that there's a funeral, now you're there. What? Mm-hmm. No, I'm sorry. I need to calm down.
I love the fire.
No, don't calm down. It's okay.
It's cold out there. Let's keep the heat inside. I love the fire.
Sarah, go for no. But yeah, we're doing that conversation next week. And if any of you two want to be part of it, message me. But we got Louis March.
No, I'm gonna listen.
Okay.
You don't want me on there.
Yeah, of course I want you on before you desert us.
Hell no. Nope.
You don't want to go into it.
Nope.
Cesar. Okay. Cesar, well, you want to say anything quick before you want to be part? Well, we'll talk off channel about this if you want to be part of it next.
I'll be there. My position on religion in the Black community is simple. We should not be Christian or Muslims. It will never help us. There will always be contradictions and elements that don't help to advance our cause. And please stop giving me the example of MLK and Malcolm X when at the time the priority was to even survive segregation. But in an age of knowledge, in an age of information, in an age of integration, why are we still practicing the religions of the slave masters and the colonizers when we have our own spirituality of our people to stand up and be as equals to them? I do it. My earrings are right there. I'm very respected by whites, Jews, Arabs, Indians, Chinese. They respect me 100%. And they know I'm not Christian or Muslim.
Well, folks, this is just the start of next week's conversation already. But Sarah, I'm going to try to find a way of getting you. Sarah's face. Okay, let's move on to the next conversation. Peace. So now, next up, Cesar, I want to talk about France and some European museums arts restitution. I know a lot of our viewers need education on this one. Cesar, please.
I don't want to take too much time. Please allow me, if Sister Sarah wants to say something regarding that, because I may go into a little bit of a historical, but also socio-economical and religious conversation that basically will come off like a course. So if Sister Sarah wants to say something first.
No,
she's still thinking about next week.
Give the background because my knowledge of the issue is kind of peripheral.
Yeah.
No problem. Okay, so I'll make it very simple very simple. I will purposefully not go too much into details so that nobody gets lost. Long story short, we are in 2021. Okay. Conversations have been happening for the last few years and more intensely since last year, 2020, about restitution of African art that was looted during colonization.
Okay.
Some very important things you must understand, and it's very interesting that we just talked about the role of churches in the Black community, because very little do most people, and by most people I include the vast majority of Black people, it is estimated, just as it's estimated that 90% of Black people in the world are part of religions that are racist, anti-Black, that have a base in terms of looking at the Black person as inferior to white, to Arab, and linked to Satan. It is estimated that 90% of African spiritual arts has been stolen during colonization. Mm-hmm. How was this happening? A very classic example is what was shown in a movie that was banned in France in 1976, if my memory is correct. The movie title is a movie that I use in my conferences and trainings. It's called, in English, Black and White in Color, Noir et Blanc en Couleur. They basically show how the missionaries, because it was the missionary and the soldiers who were doing this. So the missionaries, what were the white missionaries doing? Basically, I wish I had one of my African pieces of art here instead of downstairs. But basically, let's say this is a statue of your water god, okay? Yep. The missionaries would look at it. If they find it ugly, they throw it to the fire. They tell you, you got to break it. You need Jesus to save you. If they like it, that's what they steal to bring to the European Museum.
Okay, got it.
It was not that the people were like, okay, now that we have discovered Jesus and Mary, go ahead, we give you this as a gift. No, they were tricked into being made to believe that this statue is evil and we send you to hell. We're going to give you this statue of white Jesus and Mary to put in your house, and it's going to protect you. So basically, they played off the spiritual connection, the relationship to the divine that Africans had with nature and with their ancestors by demonizing the art. A perfect example is there's a statue, the god Blé. It's the name of a god that did not get restituted, because these pieces of art, you got to understand, it's kind of like arguably the most famous painting in the world. Does everybody knows what the most famous painting in the world is? You all know it.
Mona Lisa?
Mona Lisa, La Joconde of Leonardo da Vinci. What most people don't know is that it is deemed priceless. It doesn't have a price. It has been stolen before.
Yes.
But you can't sell it. It doesn't have a price. You steal it, you basically technically have every government that are entitled to arrest you, to hunt you, to bring it back. It's considered a treasure of humanity. These African artifacts are the same. They're just not valued at the same level because most people don't. Now, there are also other issues that come into play in terms of, when you have them in the European museums, and when we say European museum, understand it's mainly 3 museums in Paris, in London, and in Berlin, aka 1884, the Conference of Berlin. What were the powers there? The same powers that did World War I and then World War II, World Wars, aka European White Wars. The looting of African artifacts has greatly contributed to the destruction of the African identity. Because when, for example, we're just talking about religion, it is not about me bashing religion. It is not about me bashing Christianity and Islam. As of tomorrow, Monday, I am beginning forums on Islamophobia in child welfare. So the issue is not bashing a religion, bashing people who believe. It's addressing the ideological systems and the power relations in terms of the consequences to Black people. And what that has done, and it was very purposeful. Why purposeful? Colonization of Africa started in 1884. The Europeans had 3 centuries of experience with the indigenous Americans. This is the reason why you go to South America, indigenous people will tell you they're Christian while telling you in the same sentence that the Spanish, the Portuguese did X, Y, Z, and yet those are the same people who impose on them the religion. So when the same people, the French, the British, the Germans, but also the Spanish and the Italians, etc., when they went to Africa, and let's never forget the Belgians in Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo, they knew what they were doing. It was not an accident. It's not an accident that European museums are so rich of African artifacts. It's not an accident. They're not rich of Chinese or Japanese artifacts. They are rich of African artifacts. And one of the things that come, another issue, when they bring them back to Africa, to what extent are they going to be protected? Because the insecurity that happened in Africa, notably in what is called the Sahel region. So this is the Sahara region in terms of where African countries are. So just below the Maghrebi countries and Arab countries of the north. But the insecurity is notably fomented by the same Western powers that are seeking African natural resources, aka you have rich countries on paper and in their basement, but you have poor populations that are being restituted objects of art that are part of the immaterial construction, that are part of the identity in terms of constructing themselves, but there's a constant risk that they will be destroyed. They will be destroyed because it becomes kind of a poison gift. We need to have them back, but you can only sustain a museum if you have a stable society where people are truly sovereign of the identity. And unfortunately,
we lost Cesar.
I'm right here.
There we go. We're back.
So I was saying you can only have art being restituted in museums for the people to reacquire the identity, to reacquire the sense of self, the sense of spirituality. What I'm saying is not foreign. It's the same thing that happened in Japan in the 19th century called the Meiji era. Basically, they ended the samurai war. So you look at the movie The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise. Again, another plagiarism from Hollywood. He was a French white man, aka, they just changed the story. The Last Samurai, what really happened, they ended the samurai era and the Bushido, but they took the elements of samurai ideology, Bushido, the Japanese put it in the economic development. The top Japanese companies always have a samurai saber in the head offices. It's part of the spirituality. Chinese identity, we talk about communist China, Xi Jinping, does China wants to conquer the world? You cannot understand the development of China without understanding what is called Confucian ideology. It's the same as USA and capitalism. You cannot understand USA and Britain's capitalism without understanding Protestantism and the Protestant ethics of work. People like to say religion has nothing to do with economic development. Religion has nothing to do with art. That is absolute lies. The Vatican was the biggest funder of art in Europe for centuries.
They own more land than any other organization in the world.
Absolutely. And religion is tightly linked to the development of people in their perception of themselves, the nature of work, and where they're going to put their money and funding. So all of this is intricately linked to the development of what? Africa. Africa that is predicted that between 2050 and the end of the century, it is estimated that 1/4 of humans will be Africans. I did not say black. So imagine if we add half of black people in the Americas, they're all in Brazil, but we also add the Caribbeans, all the other blacks. And there's a growth of consciousness that's happening right now in India regarding the Dravidians people, that they are black, that, they must exit this caste system.
Right.
The growth of black identity, the growth of black demographics is one of the fundamental fears of white supremacy, of Arab supremacy, of Aryan supremacy, of Han supremacy. Absolutely. When people say China is colonizing Africa, there is this fear of an awakening of the black man, the black woman, the black family in terms of their own consciousness and what they can actually do.
All right. That's good stuff. Sarah, that was a masterclass right there. You want to add anything else?
Nope. Like I said, my knowledge is very
Sarah,
peripheral.
Well, Cesar, thank you for that masterclass. And I have more awareness. I'm going to delve a little bit deeper on this subject because it's so relevant because that's our history.
Absolutely.
It's our history and it's being, for lack of a word, robbed from us.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's not right. So we're going to go to our last conversation piece today. And it's about some things going on down in America. 2 interesting trials. Sarah's shaking her head again. Kyle Rittenhouse and the Ahmed Aubery trial. The Rittenhouse trial, he was deemed not guilty. Now, the funny thing is what's going to happen with Mr. Aubery's trial, but let's get your thoughts, each one of you, on both those trials. Let's look at Mr. Rittenhouse first.
Okay, so first of all, those crocodile tears when he took the stand, what? Okay. And then, the crazy judge, what? Like, what is that? I've never seen that kind of behavior. You have, like, literally a phone conversation on your cell phone during the trial in the courtroom. Like, what are you doing? What?
Very professional.
That? Okay. Not only that, he went off into some sort of rambling tirade, and he's chewing out the prosecutor, and what the hell? And he's also showing himself openly to be sympathetic to Rittenhouse.
Yeah.
I've never seen that kind of thing. Like, where are we in the Jim Crow era? What's going on here?
Well, remember now, the former president of the United States had a whole pile of judges appointed.
No, exactly. And you know what? I've been watching all of the commentators. I try to watch Fox, but I can't. After 5 minutes, I'm done. It's over. You know,
Save your brain.
There's only so much chuckums I can take, and you know, all those other guys. But a lot of what the black, brown, and liberal commentators were saying was that, okay, this is not a good message to send out. Basically, what you're saying is, if there is a protesting white supremacy and police brutality, and you're a white vigilante, and you've got an AR-15 or whatever high-powered, you know, deadly weapon on you, walk around freely with it, and then feel free to shoot people you feel are threatening. Okay? Because from what I saw in the video, it seems like those guys were trying to take the weapon away from him because they were afraid he was going to start shooting up people indiscriminately. And you keep in mind that in the lead up to this, there had been a bunch of mass shootings. You know, the person who walked into a mall in Texas somewhere and just started shooting because they didn't like Mexicans or whatever it was. And even before that, there was a string of racially anti-immigrant motivated descriptions. And then the guy to cross state lines with this weapon, he's underage to have that weapon. His mother took him there. There's so much about that entire situation, and that is so enraging. It's you can't even wrap your head around it. And you know what? A lot of black people were like, "Why are you shocked? Why are you shocked?" As soon as that judge started talking at the beginning of the trial, it was done. Like it was pretty much over. When they started talking about the choice of the
choice of language
jurors.
for the victims.
Okay, so that whole thing where Rittenhouse was picking jurors out of a box in his... I've never seen that kind of foolishness. What the hell is that? Okay?
America.
And it just, for me, it really felt like sort of the middle finger to all people seeking justice, not just for black people who are over-policed, overrepresented on death row. By the way, I'm relieved that Julius Jones was not put to death. Thank you, because that also was in the background. Mm-hmm. While this Rittenhouse guy, who he butchered the two people and maimed the other guy, and it's on video. This other guy has been on death row for how many decades? Mm-hmm. And at the very last minute, the governor, due to public pressure from people like Kim Kardashian and other white, Hollywood, do-gooders, had his life spared, despite everybody, including the parole board, some of the witnesses, the person who actually killed the guy, saying, he's innocent, don't kill him. Then this guy who actually did kill two people and injured one person, he gets to go free. I'm hoping civil lawsuit. And the lawsuit should not just be limited to Rittenhouse. His mother should be sued, and that judge should be sued. Because you cannot have this. You're sending the wrong signal to all of these white supremacist groups who are just chomping on the bit to go start something and say, yeah, well, those black people, they look threatening. So I just pulled out my AR-15 and then just started shooting them up, And this also comes in the wake of all of those white supremacists who took over the Michigan Capitol. Remember that? Yep. Last summer? They just walked in there armed to the teeth. Yeah. They took over the thing and they're pointing their weapons down into the chamber. where
Hey,
legislators are sitting.
January
Only
6th
white-
wasn't that long ago.
What? That was last year.
No, that
Only-
was it still
was
wasn't
last
that
year.
long
That was
ago.
2020.
Sarah's talking about Michigan's governor Gretchen.
Michigan.
Gretchen, and how they arrested gentleman who had a plot to kill her.
Yeah, but before the plot,
Yeah,
those militia people showed
walked
up,
in there. Yep.
got in, pulled out their weapons, were hanging out with the security and joking and threatening legislators if they didn't get their way. Okay. Let's make those white guys black. First of all, if Rittenhouse was Juwan so-and-so or, Rashawn, he would take 2 steps down the street and be shot at by all of those National Guards men who waved Rittenhouse by. So what are we coming to? No, it's enraging. And then that Aubery trial, they need to find all 3 of them. All 3 of them, they need to be guilty. Throw them back in the slammer where they belong and keep them there so they can think on it. You don't just run down a human being and shoot him like you're out deer hunting, because that's what it looked like.
Well, in regards to the Aubery trial, if anyone gets the opportunity, I don't know if they still have it on the CBS News website, but the news program 48 Hours a few months ago did a 1-hour thing on that trial. People before they're actually, they did a great background on it. They need to watch it. That's all I got to say. And it's very.
No, there's so many things that point to guilt on all counts, and including, who is that? The Crown Attorney, or I don't know what official, who actually shielded those 3 men, because those guys were chilling at home. They were chilling at home, and it's when now the video came out,
which was taken by one of
the idiots, the accused. No, but so basically, if they set these guys free, what they're saying is, look, white people can even film themselves killing some black folk, like they're deer. They out hunting for some black people. Yep. They can film it. It can be on video. The entire planet can see it, and we will still find them not guilty because, your complexion is your protection. Mm-hmm. Oh, hell no. These guys need to be guilty. Mm-hmm. And Rittenhouse, that needs to go to a civil lawsuit. Mm-hmm.
Cesar?
There must be justice.
Cesar? Anything you want to add?
I joined Sister Sarah, not in her outrage, but in the fact that if we lived in a moral world, yes, they would be guilty. But at the risk of coming off cynical, I'm very glad at what happened. And I know, it can shock our people, but you see, no. I'm glad.
Turn her head.
No, I agree. No, I agree with Sarah. That's why I said at the risk of coming off cynical. I'm not really glad, but work with me here. Isn't this what Nellie Fuller told us about? If you're not careful, white supremacy will keep fooling you left and right, no matter how you convince that now we got them. That's what white supremacy does. Sure, those who say that Rittenhouse is about self-defense, that he didn't really cross state lines with a weapon, and that in the state where he killed, it was legal to be underage and have a firearms, and even that he wasn't out of place. He was 20 minutes away from his other home where his family resides. So many good reasons to decide to look at this Kyle Rittenhouse as innocent. Sure, and say, oh, he's not guilty, self-defense rights, the right to bear arms. So why am I being cynical? It's quite simple. This is just a reminder of what Childish Gambino told us in a song. This is America. We cannot be surprised. Why are we surprised? Yeah. The context changes, the details changes. Kyle Rittenhouse is 17-year-old. Okay. How old was Trayvon Martin when Zimmerman killed him, despite police on the phone saying, let the kid go, he's doing nothing wrong? He still killed him. He went to court. Police said, yes, we told him to let the kid go, and he was still found not guilty. Trayvon Martin was the same age as Rittenhouse. If we were to flip the script, Zimmerman being a black man, Trayvon Martin being a white kid, we know very well that Zimmerman would likely even be sitting with, maybe even the death sentence. When we look at what happened in the church, Dylan Roof, another one, killing 9 of the brothers and sisters, and yet being properly handcuffed, even brought to eat a burger because he was so hungry. We look back at our movies from John Singleton, Boys in the Hood, or we look at Menace to Society. We know full well that Jamal and Ray and Tyrone would not have been given that fate. They would have been shot on sight, not even given a trial. So what happened in terms of Rittenhouse? To me, it's not just another case of white supremacy and systemic racism in the justice. To me, it was a clear mistrial just by the behavior of the judge. Yeah. To me, it is basically to make fun of white people who say black on black crime. This is white on white crime that was given white justice. Because in their logic, apparently the 2 people that he killed had records, criminal records. Yeah, that's what they say. That's fine. But this was white people killing white people. So then they're like, why are black people being upset? Well, black people are rightfully upset. We're not playing victims. We were upset that Rittenhouse got not guilty because we know very well that instead of Kyle Rittenhouse, if he was Jamal Smith, or if he was Kofi Odibumbu of Nigerian descent, there wouldn't even have been a question other than, did he get shot before he got handcuffed or after he got handcuffed in the police car or in the jail cell when he got killed? We know this because that's what happened to our sister Sandra Bland. Mm-hmm. She didn't commit suicide. We know that. Black people are not a community, and of course, I'm not minimizing that there is suicide in the black community, and we need to address mental health. But the black community is not a community known in terms of committing suicide, especially for activists. So the Rittenhouse trial is just another in-your-face demonstration of white supremacy, in the same sense as when we speak in terms of Aubery, we basically have, as Sister Sarah said it so well, they killed our brother as if they were deer hunting. They set him up and trapped him. You know how crazy it is to me, the Aubery trial? I have a legal firearm license. It's been over 10 years. Trained by a Canadian elite, a superior in the army, basically. He didn't have a chance. They weren't trying to arrest him. They weren't trying to question him. They weren't trying to, to be like, to use white supremacist language, to be like, hey, boy, what you doing in this neighborhood? Your color doesn't match. No. They were out to kill our brother. They recorded it. It has been proven that they chilled with the state attorney who protected them from prosecution. Why are we having a trial? We're having a trial because the victim is black. If we flip the script and the victim was white and the 3 people, especially the father and son, were black, we know full well what would be happening. So time and again, just as the vast majority of black people are loving living in integration, they're loving being able to go to the place with white people, to sit in the classroom, to sleep and marry the white woman. Our leaders warned us. Even Brother Martin Luther King came to ask himself if he wasn't bringing his people in a house on fire. Our leaders warned us. I'm not here to say we need to go back to segregation. No, to me, no. we need to work on our Black consciousness, identity, and communities. Because, you know, the crazy thing that happened, and I keep saying time and again, those white supremacists don't go do that to the Jewish teenager and the Jewish jogger. They don't go do that to the Chinese teenager and the Chinese jogger. There's a reason why. Those NYPD cops, they were not doing stop and frisk as a policy to the Jewish and Chinese in New York City. They were doing it to the Blacks and Latinos. It's not accidental. It becomes, you know, too many factors to still think of coincidence, to still think of happenstances, to think it's not related. It is all related. There is a reason why if a cop pulls me over and just asks for an ID, I will show you my firearm license. It's a funny look that they give when they see a brother with a legal firearm. And yes, I do. I'm a big, dark-skinned Black man, and I drive a Cadillac. And I show my legal firearm license.
Speaking of it's all related, one thing I forgot to add in my reaction is, you know, in the U.S., these judges, etc., not all of them are appointed. The prosecutors, crown attorneys, whatever. Yeah. You know, it's in the legal system is such that there are many positions that you vote for, that you actually vote for. Yes. So I heard a lot of commentators remind their audience, okay, people, voting matters. When you look at cases like this and that judge in the Rittenhouse case, turn out for every election, all of it, sheriff, whatever, just all of it, because these people are the ones that can make your life hell.
And one last thing, if you don't mind, for the Aubery trial, we have a trial that is heavily set on racism and murder, homicide. And look at the jury composition.
We won't even go there.
No, and the Black pastors. He doesn't like Black pastors, and he's scared to death of Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton.
All right, folks, we got to wrap it up, but I'm sure we'll be continuing talking, especially about the Aubery trial in the upcoming weeks. Probably there'll be a verdict before the end of the year, and maybe before the next time we do another roundtable, there may be there probably will be a verdict by then. So it'll be very much interesting to chat about. I'd like to thank both Sarah and Cesar for making the time to share with us today. Sarah, how can people get in touch with you best way?
Black on Black is the radio show I co-host with my lovely co-hosts on Saturdays from 11 a.m. to noon on CHUO 89.1 FM. Our email address is blackonblack891@hotmail.com.
Cesar, best way to get in touch with you?
Best way, rootsandculturecanada.com, or hit me on Facebook, Cesar, Cesar, Remy, Rimy. I'm still active, not blocked yet.
Right, good stuff. Well, I'd like to thank everyone who watched this live or watching on the replay. It's appreciated, not taken for granted. My name is Dr. Vibe, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, the home of Epic Conversations. I'm the host of Epic Conversations, another great edition of Black Canada Talking. And as always, want to say these last things before we wrap it up today. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Next week, Black Canada Talking, scheduled about the church and gun violence, or where is the church when it comes to to gun violence in the Black community. Please check it out. We're looking at 28th of November, live 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, thanks to BIM Media. God bless. Peace, y'all. Keep the faith and walk good. And remember to give yourself grace. Bye, everybody.